Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leak. I'm John as always, and it's time for Top 10 Thursday. This week we're going to take a look at one of my favorite casual, generally non-spiky topics, alternate win condition cards. So usually you win a game of Magic by reducing your opponent's life total to 0, maybe forcing them to draw a card when they're empty or when their library is empty, or sometimes, depending on the format, you win by having them have 10 poison counters. But throughout Magic's history, there's maybe a couple dozen or so cards that have the words, "you win the game," or sometimes your opponent loses the game, or target player loses the game. But these words that just totally throw all the rules of Magic out the window, and you win in a totally different way. And these are my 10 favorites. Up first, we're going to have an honorable mention that doesn't quite make the list because it's banned in every format, and arguably most casual formats. People wouldn't even play this card. It's Amulet of Quoas. Anyways, this card is totally banned everywhere. I don't know anybody who would willingly use it because it's an anti-card. So way back in the early days of Magic, there was a rule called Ante, which said that at the beginning of each game, and this was for every game of Magic, each player would flip the top card of their libraries, and that one would be on the line. The winner of the game keeps both cards. It was a gambling aspect that was just kind of thrown away pretty quickly because it was gambling, which has varying levels of legal problems depending on where you're living. And of course, it just wasn't kid-friendly, and it got it banned in schools and all kinds of stuff like that. So this card was just totally removed. But anyways, this card says, remove Amulet of Quoas from your deck before playing if you're not playing for Ante, which obviously nobody is, so it would never be in your deck. But you can tap and sacrifice Amulet of Quoas, and target opponent may ante the top card of his or her library. If he or she doesn't, you flip a coin. If you win the flip, that player loses the game. If you lose the flip, you lose the game. Activate this ability only during your upkeep. So this is a weird one. So basically, your opponent is who you're probably going to target, either has to ante an additional card, so they're potentially going to lose 2 cards, or you're going to flip a coin. And if you win that coin flip, you win the game, and you win their anti-card. And if you lose the flip, you lose, and you lose your anti-card. This is just ridiculous because it's adding the gambling of ante, and then adding on top of that the gambling of flipping a coin. I love this just because the rules text are telling you something that the Magic tournament rules explicitly say you're not allowed to. You can't flip a coin to decide who wins a game of Magic. It will get you disqualified, and this card is telling you to do just that. Absolutely awesome. Just a quick honorable mention, but now we're going to get into the real list. At number 10, we have Near-Death Experience. We're currently pretty familiar with Triskaidekaphobia and its 13 life game loss condition, but there's several cards similar to it in Magic's history. This one from Rise of the Eldrazi lets you snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. So this card is 2 white for an enchantment that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 1 life, you win the game. So if you have 1 life, you win. Now, we all have all of those stories of playing an opponent who got to 1 life and then stabilized and then somehow regained the advantage and won despite having 1 life. Well, this card just kind of throws all that out of the window. They get to 1, they play this card, and they just win. They don't have to struggle back. They can just win with 1 life. Very cool. No need to claw yourself back. You just win. So, Near-Death Experience, number 10. Up next at number 9, we have Helix Pinnacle. Helix Pinnacle is a weird one, and I assume you just can't win with this in a normal game of Magic, a normal format usually, without some sort of infinite mana combo, or maybe some really serious ramp with doubling season, preferably doubling seasons. But anyways, this card is from Eventide. It's a single green mana for an enchantment at rare. It has Shroud. You can pay X to put X tower counters on Helix Pinnacle, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 100 or more tower counters on Helix Pinnacle, you win the game. So you need to get 100 counters on this thing. You need to put 100 mana into this. Most games you don't get to have 100 mana, so that's why I said you need to have infinite mana, or at least incredibly serious mana, or multiple doubling seasons. So maybe you could have, I don't know, 3 doubling seasons out and put 10 on this, which would then make it 20, which would then make it 40, which would then make it more and more and more and more. But yeah, you're going to need some serious support for this. It is nice that it has Shroud, so it's going to be pretty hard to hate this out. They can't just disenchant it or something like that. They're going to have to make you sacrifice it. But yeah, Helix Pinnacle, very cool. I've never played with it. I'd like to give it a try, but I imagine it's pretty difficult to actually go off with. Next up at number 8, we have Azor's Elocutors. This is one of the first alternate win conditions that I saw when I got back into Magic, and I loved it because it's so anti-Magic. So Azor's Elocutors is 3 white, blue, so Azorius, so 5 mana. It's a creature human advisor, it's at rare, it's a 3/5, but the important part is that at the beginning of your upkeep, put a filibuster counter on Azor's Elocutors. Then if Azor's Elocutors has 5 or more filibuster counters on it, you win the game. Whenever a source deals damage to you, remove a filibuster counter from Azor's Elocutors. Quick bit of political knowledge here. Filibustering is basically when somebody delays Parliament or delays Congress or delays political proceedings by talking. People have famously just read books. They've read novels as their point of order for days, because as long as they had the floor, you couldn't actually vote on things. It's kind of a dick move, but that's what happens. And that's what's happening in this game. You are delaying the game. You are stopping your opponent, hopefully, from dealing damage to you. You're saying, we're done playing Magic. We're going to sit here for 5 turns. We're going to do nothing. And you're not going to hit me. And then I'm going to win the game. I love that. I love the flavor of it. It's so much fun. It's somewhat hard to pull off because any damage to you takes a counter off. A burn spell takes a counter off. And there was a fair number of burn spells in Return to Ravnica. But it is still really fun, and I have won a few limited games of Magic with Azor's Elocutors. But really, I don't expect we'll ever see a filibuster counter ever again in Magic, so I had to include this. Azor's Elocutors, number 8. Up next at number 7, we have possibly the realest card in this list, Laboratory Maniac. Laboratory Maniac is 2 and a blue for a creature human wizard at rare. It's a 2/2, and it says if you would draw a card while you have no library, while your library has no cards in it, normally you would lose, but with Laboratory Maniac, you win the game instead. So you mill yourself to 0, draw a card, and win, the exact opposite of the way that you would normally play a game of Magic. It features in combo decks in basically every format. There were standard versions. It features in some legacy combo decks, some modern combo decks. It was even on the Community Super League a couple weeks ago during Innistrad Plane Constructed Week. Kenji was playing it in a Primal Surge deck where he barfed his entire library onto the battlefield with Laboratory Maniac, drew a card, and won. He didn't win the match, unfortunately, but it was very cool. It's a great build-around card, and normally turning a loss condition into a win condition is a great subversion of the mechanics, so Laboratory Maniac, number 7. Up next, at number 6, we have Door to Nothingness. Another alternate win condition that I've actually won with. This time, it's only been in Cube that I've won with this, although there was a standard deck kicking around with it, but I never did play it. Door to Nothingness is a 5-mana artifact from Magic 2013, and it says Door to Nothingness enters the battlefield tapped. Pay white, blue, black, red, green, tap, and sacrifice Door to Nothingness. Target player loses the game. Probably one of your opponents. Probably don't want to choose yourself. This is a lot of work to pull off. You have to be a 5-color deck. You have to have ways of producing 5 colors of mana. You have to get 10 mana in the right order. It's definitely hard to pull off, but it is doable with some serious ramp or perhaps an infinite mana combo if you can filter the mana into the colors that you need. I pulled this off in Cube where there's just a ton of dual lands, so I just grabbed as many duals as I could and fetch spells. I had a Progenitus as well. I also had an infinite mana combo in the deck. It was fun. It was a really fun game of Magic that I won with this. It's a fun little card. The fact that it just simply says target player loses the game. It's just such a simple phrase that means so much in a game of Magic. The fact that it enters tapped is its biggest problem. It gives your opponent an entire turn to find artifact removal or some way to disrupt it. But, they need to know it's coming. They need to be ready for it, or else they are going to lose the next game. Still, just a super fun card. Next up, we have Biovisionary. This guy had some fun combo decks in Standard, but I don't really think he's seen any play since in Modern or Legacy or anything like that. I don't even really think in any casual formats because you can only have one copy of this guy. He's a Biovisionary. He's a creature human wizard. He costs 1 green and a blue for a 2/3, and he says at the beginning of each end step, not upkeep, that's kind of nice, if you control 4 or more creatures named Biovisionary, you win. You win the game. There's the fair way of doing this, which is playing 4 copies, playing them on the battlefield, making sure they all live and winning. But that's really hard because your opponent's not going to let you. They're going to remove one of them. If they remove one, your entire plan is toast. So the obvious way of doing this is with clone effects. You play 4 copies of this and also 4 copies of clone and 4 copies of the other clones that I can't think of the names of right now. So you can make multiple copies of this. You can really go off with something like Progenitor Mimic, where you get to make a copy each turn, or Infinite Reflections, where everything on the battlefield becomes a biovisionary. There's lots of fun ways to do this. It definitely makes me want to go and look to see if there is any way of pulling this off in Modern. I really doubt it. You know, this is not Splinter Twin or anything like that, but still just a really fun card. Biovisionary, number 5. At number 4, we have a card that would want me to play a deck that has Cumulox, Zada, Hedron Grinder, and Zathrid Necromancer in it. Now, what card would that be? Well, that would be the Unhinged card, Now I Know My ABCs. Now I Know My ABCs is a 1 blue enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control permanents with names that include all 26 letters of the English alphabet, you win the game. So Unhinged and Unglued were a couple of joke sets that Wizards put out. They're not legal in any format, but many cubes will play some of them. Some Commander players will allow their playgroup to play some of these cards. This one doesn't really see play, but it's just so hilarious. The fact that you would build a deck around having 26 letters of the alphabet in all the names of the permanents is so much fun. It almost makes me kind of want to think about putting it in my cube, because my cube does have some Unhinged and Unglued cards. But the fact that the tracking would be a nightmare probably is going to stop me from doing this. Having to keep track of what letters are on the battlefield, so much work. Cool card, cool idea. It'd be good on Magic Online where it would do it for me, but the amount of tracking in this would be just way too much of a nightmare. But still, awesome card, so it is going to be number 4. At number 3, we have Barren Glory. Barren Glory is a very hard win condition to pull off. It's 4 white for an enchantment, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control no permanents other than Barren Glory, and you have no cards in your hand, then you win the game. You need a blank board and a blank hand and Barren Glory to win. That's very hard to pull off. You need to Armageddon your lands, you need to kill all your creatures and all your other permanents, but leave this permanent behind. Very, very hard to pull off. One of the main reasons this is so high on the list is because it's a functional reprint of an Unglued card called The Cheese Stands Alone. The meat, on the other hand, has frequent visitors, says the flavor text. Yeah, The Cheese Stands Alone is exactly the same card. Same casting cost, same color, same rules text, same everything. I love that Wizards created this joke card for a joke set, and then later said, hey, it's not a bad idea. Let's just make this card for real. They, of course, couldn't keep the name The Cheese Stands Alone, which is really unfortunate. They had to go with the much more boring Barren Glory. But The Cheese Stands Alone, Barren Glory, it's a cool little story of Magic's history. So number 3 on this list. At number 2, we have a standard legal alternate win condition. We have Hedron Alignment. Hedron Alignment is 2 and a blue for an enchantment at rare. It has hexproof. For 1 and a blue, you can scry 1. The important part, however, is at the beginning of your upkeep, you may reveal your hand. If you do, you win the game. If you own a card named Hedron Alignment in exile, in your hand, in your graveyard, and on the battlefield. So the 4 copies that you're playing need to be in the 4 different zones. That is so hard to pull off. It makes me kind of want to try this. I want to brew it. I want to figure out if there's a way. I know there was a deck that Saffron Olive did that used Delve, but of course that's no longer available in Standard anyways, and in Modern you would just get killed trying to pull this off. But it is still a really cool idea. It's even being played tonight on the Community Super League, I think by Marshall Sutcliffe from Limited Resources, and I'm really excited to see what he's done with it, to see if he can pull it off. I want to see him win a game. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm going to be watching to try to see that. But number 2, Hedron Alignment. Finally, at number 1, we have another win condition that actually sees play and can win. It's not common, and if you haven't seen this card before, prepare yourself. It's Battle of Wits, 3 blue for an enchantment at rare, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 200 or more cards in your library, you win the game. You need to have a library that big in order to win this game. It's crazy. It sounds like this is totally impossible, right? Well, I've been beaten by this in Standard, back when it was in Standard. It was from Magic 2013. Basically, what you do is you jam your deck full of tutors to find Battle of Wits and to find your other things that you need. Just solidly good creatures. The deck that I played against was playing Grave Titan and Primeval Titan and Frost Titan. All the Titans were in there. I believe it was a full-on 5-color deck. You basically build a deck that's a toolbox deck. You can get whatever you want, whenever you want, because you have 200 and some odd cards. This has to be one of the most unique win conditions, requiring you to play 200 cards, but of course you need to play more, because you're going to be drawing some. by the time you play Battle of Witch, you still have to have 200 in the pile. So you're going to play more like 230, 240, 250, something like that. Basically 200 plus an actual deck. Really fun card. I've never played with it. I want to give it a go. I'm definitely going to check on Magic Online to see how much you have to invest into a Battle of Wits deck, but I have a feeling it's probably a lot. But I definitely do want to, at some point in my Magic career, play Battle of Wits. I don't even have to win with it. I just want to play with it one time. But number one, Battle of Wits. So that's going to wrap it up for the top 10 alternate win condition cards. There's definitely a good 20 or so that I didn't include on this list. So I want to know, what is your favorite alternate win condition card? Was it one of these ones? Was it one that I didn't include? Something like Chance Victory or something like that? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at the Mana Leak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/themanaleak and Twitch at twitch.tv/themanaleak. You've found me here on YouTube, you've got that comment section down below. Please make use of it. As well, if you enjoy my videos, click that little thumbs up icon to let me know that you like the videos and to let YouTube know as well. Kind of important. And as well, if you haven't subscribed, you should. There's a link below each video. There's one in the outro of each video, and that'll keep you up to date on all the latest Crack Pack Tuesdays, Wacky Wednesdays, Top 10 Thursdays, Spiky Saturdays, League updates. There's a couple more of those left, and all the other things that pop up here and or there. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see y'all next time.